CampNaNoWriMo, and I've been working on my new rom-com novel that I've been talking about over here. Right now I'm at my current word count is 6,522 words, and today's goal is to hit 8,000 and something words. Let's see, what does CampNano say? So today's word count goal is to reach 8,065 words. So it's about 1,600 or so words, which I would ideally be able to reach in about 2 hours time. But because I'm also planning to vlog today, it's going to take longer than that. I know it, and I'm setting my expectations accordingly. I don't want to feel bad that I didn't reach it in the usual amount of time that I would take, because it's not practical to be that focused and to be vlogging. I'm going to start writing now. My goal is to write at least 250 words in the first sprint for 25 minutes. And just to give you an idea of what I'm planning to do, I'll be doing 4 25-minute sprints, so about 2 hours, and I'll try to get as much I can, as much footage I can, but also I'll check in after each 25 minutes slot, so that 5-minute break will be my vlogging time. And I also wanted to share my outline for this book. I talked about it in my last video. If you want to check that, I'll link it up here. In an earlier video, I had talked about outlining and how I go from a story idea into outlining a book. Today I wanted to share the elements that I want to focus on while drafting my first draft, and basically the first act. I want to talk about that today, the things that needs to happen in the first act for this book, and the key things that I'm going to try and hit as I'm drafting the first draft. But right now I'll set the Pomodoro for 25 minutes and start writing. These flowers are looking quite sad. I think I need to change it. But right now I finished the first sprint. I wrote about 247 words, close enough. I'm not going to be very nitpicky about word count. Anyways, I wanted to share with you about the first act of my story. So my first act is going to be about 20-25% of the novel. And the word count goal that I'm aiming for is 23,000 words. So far, what the first act in my outline, I shared how I've outlined it in Plotter. What I did is, once I was done outlining, I have exported all that into a Word document, and there are multiple versions of the Word document, but I'm backing everything up, which reminds me, if you are working on a novel, whether it is for CampNaNoWriMo or not, remember to back your work up. And an easy thing that I would recommend doing, which I do myself, is set a reminder for yourself in Google Calendar or an alarm on your phone that goes off at the end of the day. So that at the end of your writing day, so that you know that you should be backing everything up. I back everything up in my Google Docs, my Google Drive, and also I email the draft as is to myself. Whatever works for you, Dropbox, Drive One, whatever is your cloud backup system, just back your drafts periodically, whether it is after every couple of thousand words or at the end of the day, the way I have been doing. And I have heard from someone that they lost most of their work recently, and it made me so sad for them, because it's devastating to completely lose your work. So just a reminder for anyone who's working on their manuscript, just remember to back it up. What's happening in my story in the first act is, first I'm starting off by showing where my protagonist is in her journey, in her story so far. I'm starting at a point where things are about to get messed up. She'll find herself in a sticky situation because of her flaws. There are some flaws in her which land her in a situation, and then she has to figure out a way to move past that, fix that situation, figure her life out basically. Right now I'm writing the chapter where she has already whatever that incident happens, and now she is in a situation where she does not know what to do and how to move forward. So that's the scene and the chapter I'm working on right now, and all this has to happen in the first act. So I'm building it up. I know my scenes are not fleshed out enough, but I'm not worrying about that at this point of time. I can flesh it out in the next draft. And while I'm writing the first act, I have key points that I want to hit in the first act, and I'll talk about it in a little bit. Right now I'll do another sprint, a 25-minute sprint, and I'll come back and I'll share with you what those key points are that I have in mind while writing my first act. So I'll see you in a little bit. This next sprint was much better. I still had the word count goal for this sprint, 250 words, but I was almost double of that, around 407 or 8 words, 408 words. The points that I want to make sure that I have in my first act, first of all, the first scene, I'm trying to write it very visually. So I'm trying to show what's going on. There's a lot of action happening, a lot of movement, so I'm describing all that. And my first scene is almost close to 1418 words. The next thing that I did was, from chapter 2 to chapter 7, I have peppered in the goal that the protagonist is going to have. So there are internal goals and then there are external goals. So I'm trying to pepper that information in. Some places I'm using dialogue where the protagonist mentions those things, and in some places I'm doing it as an internal dialogue where she's thinking about it, she's contemplating things. So I'm peppering that information in, and that's happening between chapter 2 to chapter 7. I'm going to start writing chapter 8 now in the next sprint. So there will be some more information coming out in that chapter. The next thing that I am aiming for is, the protagonist has some flaws and she has to learn some life lessons. She's going to go on that journey where she learns that lesson. I have to mention, or I have to show what that life lesson is going to be, but not outright say it, but kind of get the reader to understand that that is the lesson she needs to learn, and hopefully that will intrigue the reader to follow along with her journey to see what happens that makes her learn that lesson and whether or not she learns the lesson. So that's what I'm again aiming for. And I have to write a scene where I have to mention, I have to show, I have to get the reader to understand what that lesson is going to be. By the way, these are the points that I have in my notes from the workshop, the course, the online course that I took, and I've mentioned it in the writing resources video, the course by Jessica Brody. So all these things are from my notes which I took in the course, and I highly recommend, if you are struggling, if you are new, and if you don't know how to write a book, I highly recommend her course. I'll leave the link to her course in the description section. Even if it's not your way of writing, I recommend trying it out. It's relatively inexpensive if you take a month or 2 months to go do the course. If nothing else, you'll at least find out what's your writing style. And I feel that's a very important lesson for writers, because that helps us move forward, that helps us write better. So I highly recommend that course. I'll leave the link to it. It's not an affiliate link or anything. I just took the course, I enjoyed it. All my notes are coming from that course, and I'm implementing a lot from what I learned in that course. I have around 1,000 more words to write, and I'm going to focus on that for now. But if you need help with your writing, whether it's your story idea or outlining, I have created a playlist for you where I share all the notes from various writing courses, my own way of doing things. I'll leave that playlist up here for you, and I'll see you in the next one.